listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. Before we start, I want to remind you to check out our brand new Facebook page. Just search for Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, and you'll find episode teasers, behind-the-scenes photos, and who knows what else, to be honest with you. But also, if you're feeling super generous, please give us some feedback or suggest an episode, write a review. All of that helps us out immensely. This is episode 30, where Steve, Ricky, and I dive into what sort of training you can do between classes to keep your skills sharp and put what you've learned in the classroom right into practice. We share some of our favorite drills to do both at home, with dry fire, of course, and on the range. Plus, we talk about training for a specific purpose, whether that be competition, self-defense, or really anything else you want to train for. As always, thanks for listening to Range Minded, and we hope you enjoy episode number 30, the training between classes. Hello and welcome to Range Minded, episode number 30?
I don't know. You're the one keeping track.
No, let's just call it 50. This is episode 50.
Yeah, we're not gonna subscribe to your standard normal numbering procedure.
Remember, we started out weird. We might as well just keep it going.
We started with episode 0. Yeah. Now I have to look it up. Yeah, this is episode number 30.
Wow, that is great audio. I'm sure our listeners, all three of them, are like, yeah, I can't count either.
That's why they listen to us. So yeah, this is episode 30.
30.
We've talked about a lot over the 30 episodes, but we haven't talked about everything because you can never stop talking about firearms.
That's right.
There's just too big a world out there in the firearms world to not talk about it. But we're going to talk a little bit about training today, about range drills. We've harped over and over and over again about how training is the most important piece of kit you can get, the knowledge to use the equipment you have. So we talk about that a little bit, but we're going to also talk about how you can train yourself and how you can get better.
Yeah,
because it's more than just classrooms and all that.
Yeah, there's definitely some drills and stuff you can do at home and at the range or at the range. Just remember, the home drills are no firing at all.
Yeah, usually dry firing is the preferred method for that, unless you have land outside.
Or I know some people over here on this side of the state that have ranges in their basement, full-on filtered ranges in their basement.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How do you even begin to do that?
It helps when you're incredibly rich.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah, there's a guy that's not far from me. When he built his house, he put in, I think it's a 50-yard range under his backyard.
So you have to be doing a lot of shooting to justify the cost.
Or just be really rich.
Yeah, or not worry about what the cost is.
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool, though. I guess if people have bowling alleys under their houses, I've heard of that. You can have a shooting range. Why not?
Well, you got a movie theater. You got to have a range as well.
I would. Don't tell me you wouldn't if you won the Mega Millions lottery.
Maybe I did.
And that's true. We would never know.
Oh, you would know.
If you could see Steve's setup in his little home,
I would have my own office.
Yeah, you can guarantee he hasn't won the Mega Million yet.
I think you'd see we'd have our own I think you could make sure we all have our own offices. How do you know I'm not an eccentric
millionaire? I could be rich.
Yeah,
already.
That's true. But you would fly us over there in their private jet, so we could be doing this in person.
Why would I buy a jet to fly you 4 hours and 200 miles? It would cost more money to spin the jet up than it would to get you here.
You love us.
Well, it'd be like a half an hour flight, so it'd be totally worth it.
It would be way less than a half-hour flight.
Yeah. So what the hell? You're holding out on us.
Like I said, it would cost more to spin the jet up than it would be to take off.
Yeah. Well, we're not talking about winning the lottery today, unfortunately, because I think if we all won the lottery, it'd be all spent on guns and.
Well, if I won the lottery, I'd probably lose it in a boating accident.
That's true.
We need to keep you away from boats.
A yachting accident.
A yachting? Yachting accident.
In the yacht. I lost my money in the yacht.
Yeah. What rich people problems. We're going to talk about training a little bit, and we actually should start with Ricky because he is going away, not permanently.
Again.
He's leaving and traveling again. This guy travels more than I do.
This is going to be the last time. It does get a little tedious.
You're going to where?
We're going to go to Cascade, Wisconsin for USCCA training. for their
You gotta
defensive
say
shooting.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, you
Wisconsin.
can't. They're gonna know you're an out of towner if you say Wisconsin.
It's true, and they're probably going to jump me.
Now, Wisconsin people are great, man. They're super friendly. Good beer, good cheese, good food. Can't complain.
I heard the wild turkeys are up there too.
Yeah,
everyone
there's wild
keeps
turkeys.
talking about wild turkeys.
They're
Yeah,
talking
there's-
about alcohol, Ricky. They're talking about whiskey.
No. There's wild turkeys up there, and I'm sure there's plenty of wild turkey to drink up there too. So, but
I don't think Ricky will be partaking of
No,
the wild
probably
turkey
not.
beverage.
Nope, not
But it
in
would
that.
be cool to go wild turkey hunting.
I should make you bring me
cool.
back some Spotted Cow, though. It's beer that you can only get in Wisconsin. You can't get it anywhere else. People from Illinois actually drive and cross the border to go get it to bring it back to Illinois because it's that good. It's there's a place in New Glarus, Wisconsin. It's a brewery, and it's like a old Swiss kind of town. Mm-hmm. In fact, they even, I think, fly the Swiss flag, which is
That's
cool
interesting.
because the Swiss folks are all about their guns
And their cheese.
and their cheese and their beer, so that all helps out. But
Does their beer have hole in it like their cheese does?
no, thankfully not. It doesn't just run out.
That's probably good.
There's a dad joke in there somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I got plenty if you want to go there too. But anyway, let's keep going.
But anyway, so you're going USCCA. What class are you taking?
It's a defensive shooting fundamentals course. So this is a course that Rob Pincus designed with the USCCA. And so I don't really know what to expect.
Really? You're kind of going into this without any...
So this is all about intuitive shooting. So doing relying on what your body naturally does, and training according to that. Not trying to train stuff out of your body, but train to what your body already does.
So
that
work
make
with what
sense?
you
And
already have.
the natural reactions.
So you're working with efficiency of motion or economy of motion and just
so
basic biomechanics.
Yep, consistency, efficiency.
Nice.
Yep.
You excited?
Yeah, I am. But like I said, it gets a little tedious.
You seem excited but apprehensive.
Yeah.
He's very cagey about this. I guess we'll have to
This
get...
is
I don't know what to expect. It's not like with the carry guard course, I kind of knew what more to expect from this. The USCCA has things put together in their textbook, so I'm still a little, trying to feel it out and see what will actually happen.
Yeah, you don't know what you're
I
going to
don't
actually
know.
get there until you don't know what you're going to get till you get there.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
yeah.
No, it's exciting though.
And we're going for the purpose. It's not just for training. It's me and several other instructors that are here, and it's not going just for the training. We're going to this training specifically because they have a curriculum that we can incorporate into our training courses as well.
Right.
So that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, because we've been using their curriculum for our concealed carry classes, which we felt that is the best curriculum that we could find yet, that encompasses so many things, with easy to understand information and a book that goes with it. And I like USCCA's curriculum a lot.
Yeah, it's professionally packaged. It's professionally put together.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, even if you just pick up their book, the USCCA book that you get when you take the concealed carry class here, it's very well done, very well put together, very professional. It's like a textbook, basically, like a softcover textbook. So,
and it's current and it's easy to understand. That's what I like about it.
yeah, it's very modern. It's not like they were devised during the Cold War era and they haven't changed it since.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. Well, that'll be exciting. And are you doing outdoor shooting
It's
or
all outdoor.
Really?
So that's another reason where it's like it's not a big deal, but I've been to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, you told me Waukegan's not Wisconsin, right?
And I never looked it up.
I think
I'm pretty sure it's a
Waukegan is
border town.
Wisconsin. But anyway, if Waukegan is in Wisconsin, that's as far into Wisconsin as I've ever been.
Waukegan's in Illinois.
Oh, is it?
It's close though to the border.
I
It's
think I
not
did
that
pass
far.
over the border, but needless to say, I didn't go very far.
And you're going to Cascade,
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
So it's north
So, yeah.
of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
We'll be staying in Sheboygan.
It's 38 degrees there right now, just so you know.
Yeah.
And it's like
Oh, and
65 here in Idaho.
And it's not a pleasant 38 degrees because you got the lakes up there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Lake
You're
effect
gonna be
snow,
cold.
windy city. Yeah, windy conditions. So, yeah.
I bought gloves today. Shooting gloves.
Pack gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
I've never shot with shooting gloves before.
I'm not going to like it.
You're not going to like it?
Yeah, I can already tell. I don't usually shoot with gloves, and it's annoying because the fingers, they're just bulkier.
You're not
you
as
don't
dexterous.
you don't have the tactile response that you normally are used to.
Yeah, there's some nice shooting gloves out there, but from working with my hands my whole life, doing construction, like there's times I've just dealt with the cold because I have to feel what I'm working with. It's
Right, you have
weird.
to have that tactile response.
In fact, an old boy that I used to work with used to say the only thing you can do with gloves on is pee your pants.
Fair enough. See, in Illinois, I mean, the winters get so brutal that you kind of have to wear gloves, or else your hands just get so cold. Unless you have like a steering wheel warmer, I guess you could be fancy and have a steering wheel warmer. But
Oh, that's what they should come up with.
they already have them.
Gun grip warmers.
Electric gun grip warmers.
Yeah.
Well, you have, in fact, I think Milwaukee makes that jacket that's got a battery pack in it. And
Oh
they
yeah,
make
electric
gloves,
heated.
and you can put your gloves on and plug your gloves in, and your hands stay nice and toasty.
That's true.
Yeah, they've made electric powered heated motorcycle gear for a long time. The gloves, jacket, pants, all that kind of stuff. I think you can even get like a whole suit. Basically, it's almost like a
like a diver
snowmobile
suit.
Yeah, a diver
Now,
suit or a snowmobile
the diver
suit.
suits have the hot water that goes through there sometimes. The long-term diving suits.
Yeah,
That way you can ride all year long. Huh?
you can. Yeah, as long as you're comfortable with the road conditions that you're in. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, you better bundle up. It's gonna be a little chilly.
It's colder than you might be thinking it will be.
Yeah, and it's supposed to rain too on top of it, so
It's gonna be how long is the class?
3 days.
3 days outdoors. You're not camping, are you?
No. No, we got an Airbnb house, so that'll be nice.
Really?
Yeah.
You and all the instructors?
Yeah, so we're not staying in a hotel room. We're actually going to be staying in a house. Everyone will have their own bedroom, and so that'll be nice. But the training days are going to be long days.
Yeah, I bet.
We
3 days.
would have taken Steve, but he decided to leave us. So
Hey, you could still take me.
Yeah, you could take me too. You never asked if I wanted to go.
that's true. You guys are probably small enough to fit into my carry-on, or my checked. It would have to go up to checked
With your
because
firearm.
I'm fitting 2 of you guys. So
Yeah, I'll make sure your Glock 43 stays where it needs to stay.
Yeah.
See, I'm doing you a service.
that's right.
Well, I'll be interested to hear about the USCCA class when you get back. We'll do an episode on that and get your thoughts on that, and see what
Yes.
you learned.
Watching some of their videos that they post online and stuff, the USCCA, there's some pretty intriguing things that they do. Some of the threat analysis stuff they've done is pretty cool. Hopefully you get a chance to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, take a lot of notes.
Yeah, and that's what Mark was asking me, what am I going to do? And I cannot tell you what we're going to do. All that I know is what I said.
You're not just being coy. You're
I
actually in the dark.
I really don't know. But I do know Rob Pincus is actually he's not going to be we're not going to be doing any hands-on stuff. This
So
isn't
is
the close quarter
he is teaching
battle.
the class?
No, I
Pincus
don't know
is?
if he's actually teaching or if it's just his specific instructors teaching it.
Oh, because that'd be
But-
awesome to go to a class with Rob Pincus.
But
Yeah, for sure.
it's not uncommon to come out with injuries in Rob Pincus's classes.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like what kind of injuries?
Well, okay, I'll tell you. So somebody I know, I
Take a
won't say
tourniquet.
names. I won't say names, but in just our area, they had Rob Pincus come in and do a training, and one of the guys taking the training, who I'm good friends with, he walked out with a broken rib.
He busted
What?
a rib.
Yeah. So, but that's in a different class. That's not in this class.
Was it a self-defense class?
Yeah,
or-
it's a close quarter. What is it? Close. It's not close quarter battle. It's close quarter combat. And I don't know. I don't think that was the phrase they used. But anyway, it's one of his courses that he teaches all the time.
That's
and
crazy.
yeah, he walked out with a broken rib.
Well,
So-
I hope they know that you're gentle and that you.
Yeah, I'm a sweet spirit. I need to.
Ricky's a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
He's more than gentle. He's fragile.
Fragile. Yeah.
right, that's
so
right.
I hope
Fragile.
I hope they're gentle with you.
Yeah,
in
that's right.
Wisconsin.
Or else your personality on the podcast will be gone.
So
you come to shoot in the cold weather, did you, Ricky? Well, let's get you some shooting done, huh?
I hope that Glock 43 works just fine in the winter there.
Yeah, it's a little cold up here.
I am going to bring my 17 just in case, but it is all about your self-defense pistol. So
Really?
It's all self-defense. So, and which is what I did in the carry guard course, and it suited me fine.
That's right.
So,
Other than you were sore.
I do have one of those ulti clips on my holster now, where when I go to draw my gun out of the holster, that ulti clip just beats my knuckle to pieces. So I am
Really?
going to have to tape my knuckle up.
Are you
Whereas
still
I
carrying?
didn't have to deal.
Are you still carrying appendix, or is that different now?
Yeah, I'm still
okay.
appendix.
I thought maybe you
Not
changed.
currently, but
That's
Thanks for
okay.
letting me know.
yeah.
Well, at least he didn't show us. See, I don't have it. Look. But if we're not fancy like Ricky, and we can't take classes all the time or be flown out to such hot locations as Cascade, Wisconsin to learn from the greats.
Wisconsin.
I know. I probably seem like this spoiled little brat, don't I?
Yeah, it's a big deal with his Pelican case and his suit and his tie and going to learn to shoot. But there are ways that you can help teach and diagnose yourself at the range and make the most of your range trip based on what you do, rather than just maybe going and putting 50 rounds down range. You can actually make yourself kind of a regimen, just like working out. You can take a workout class or with a personal trainer, all that kind of stuff, but you can also go to the gym yourself and have a workout routine that you follow that helps you get towards whatever goals you've set for yourself.
Yeah, and what that does is, you'll learn good fundamental techniques in a class, but you're honing those techniques that you're learning when you just spend time at the range or at home. You can sharpen those skills, and it only takes a few. Honestly, I think you could get away with 50 rounds every couple days, maybe even a week, and still stay on top of it.
Yeah, and that's one thing, is that shooting is a diminishing skill. So if you don't shoot, with a degree of regularity, you're gonna have to start from a lower skill set than when you start. Just like lifting weights, if you don't lift weights regularly, and then you try to get back into it, and you're not going to be able to. Yeah, you're not going to be able to start at where you were, even on after vacation or anything like that. So it's important to take the skills that you've learned in a training class and go to a range. And there thankfully is a ton of stuff online, both targets, drills, all that kind of stuff you can use to keep those skills sharp. So we figured we'd go around and talk about what drills we like, which ones that we've learned, and how we make the most out of a range trip rather than just putting rounds down range for fun, which is a blast, but it's also good to practice with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was dry fire, because it's the most economical, and you can do it at home. You don't need a range even to do it.
Yep.
It's true.
Extremely important to be doing dry fire drills. And if you're drawing from a holster, if you're carrying concealed, do your draws dry as well. Don't just do dry fire drills with your trigger, and try to draw out of your holster.
Yeah. Especially with normal, whatever you're wearing clothes, if you maybe wear a button-down shirt and a tie every day to work, and that's going to be what you're wearing 90% of the time, or, if you wear just like a t-shirt and jeans like I do every day, you have to learn how to mess with that, or to maneuver that stuff to get it out of the way to have a clear draw from the holster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you really want to get fancy, they make even products that you can attach to your gun to help dry fire practice at home and everything. We carry the Mantis X training thing in the shop.
Yep.
Which I do want to pick up one of these days. I think it's pretty interesting. I don't know if
it's a good tool.
I don't know if it works as well as advertised.
It does.
It does it really?
Yeah. Mantis
Well, not
X,
only
I'm
that,
actually
you can-
pretty impressed with.
You can use the Mantis dry fire or live fire, either one.
That is true. That is true.
And CO2. So I do want to get some. We're working right now on getting cool fire barrels, which are CO2 charged barrels,
Really?
and you can use those in combination with the Mantis X. And then if you have what we call the laser ammo targets, you can use those as well. So you could pretty much set your own range up and make it pretty realistic training at home.
Well, you could trick, so you can trick everything out. But even if you don't want to or have the funds to get into all of that kind of stuff, some people I've read make a game out of dry fire. They either put a target up on their wall and they're like working at a computer, or then they'll set a timer or whatever for like a random time and then forget about it. And then when the timer goes off, they have to draw and then, and shoot at the target, dry fire, obviously. Or even some people will just watch a movie or watch TV or whatever and just dry fire over and over and over again while they're watching TV. So they not only break that trigger in a little bit, especially if it's a new gun, but also they get a really fine feel for when that trigger is going to break and what the reset feels like. And just doing that alone, if nothing else, is going to help you with controlling and your trigger press, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So that's something that you can do at home.
It is, but I think it's important to understand and to set up some parameters with your dry fire. Personally, I think you need to have a designated time, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. I wouldn't go past 20 minutes a day, personally, but you stick to that time. When that time's expired, you're done. And you need to have a specific place that you do it every time. I don't think it's a good idea to do it while you're watching TV. I know a lot of people do, and it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah, because you're adding those distractions in there that could be detrimental.
Yeah,
the
you're not
possibility
focusing.
of becoming complacent is pretty high, and so I think it's important to set up some guidelines, some rules that saying, okay, I'm only going to do it from this time to this time. I'm going to be in a room where there's absolutely no ammunition. It's completely sterile. And then when that time's up, it's up. But I would set up a target or something like you're saying. I would have some kind of a drill that I can do every time where I can point at the same target and work on it that way. But I think it's important to set up some guidelines to protect yourself.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, one of the other things to know is that you want to do your dry fire in a separate room than any of the ammunition is in. I mean, just to be safe, because like you said, complacency can be a thing. If you're at home, you're already kind of in a complacent condition anyway. So you want to make sure that you're doing it as safely as possible. And I think setting up a certain time every day, whether it's in your morning routine or after you get home from work or whatever, all good things to think about.
Yeah.
But that's shows that you can do it at home without any, real issues.
Yeah.
As long as you're safe about it, and it doesn't cost you anything if you already own the gun.
Yeah, and you can run through 1 million dry fire practices or more in a year. Honestly, you could pull that trigger more than 1 million times in a year, which is way cheaper. Like you're saying, it's way more economical than going through 1 million rounds of ammunition in a year.
So, and this is the thing with ammo. Now that we're kind of on that topic, you can easily go and blow a bunch of rounds. And this has been what's amazing when I'm teaching people. They're like, just a little while ago, or a couple days ago, I taught a private lesson. And these people, a husband and a wife, came in, and it was 2-hour private instruction. And I was like, I asked them if they had ammo, and they said, oh, we only have 50 rounds between the two of us, or both people had 50 rounds. I can't remember what it was. But they never handled firearms before. And they're like, well, we probably need more like 200 rounds, right? And I was like, no, you will be surprised at how little ammunition you use, because when you're training right, it's not about blowing rounds down range. It's not about putting 1 million rounds down range. It's about training right, and you're mentally exhausted by the end of it. Yeah. And you didn't spend that much. You didn't use that much ammo. So I think we went through maybe 40 rounds each.
Wow.
And but they were exhausted by the end of it. It was a grueling process for them because they're just learning.
Yeah, not only do you have to learn how to shoot it correctly, but also keep in mind of all that safety stuff.
Yeah.
You know, all the safety rules and everything, and being able to operate that firearm with a degree of safety is just as important. Well, it's more important. It's chief among everything else.
Yeah, and if you're so focused on the round count that you're going to put down range instead of what you're training, you can very easily train in what we call training scars. You can be starting to do bad things that you shouldn't be doing. So you're going to have to train out later.
So you can learn bad habits, basically. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah, I think maybe that's what people do too, is if they go shoot and they put a bunch of rounds down range and they have a bad habit or something, that's going to be a lot harder to train that out of somebody rather than having to, you know, rather than to start from scratch, you know?
Yeah, it's referred to as like a training scar, right? Because it is a scar, and it's going to be harder to hide that or get out of that scar later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And it, you know, really, for me, so I rarely actually ever load up my mag all the way. I usually only max out at 5, unless I'm doing some other drill or something like that. But I'll usually just load them 5 at a time and just take my time, you know, try to really think about, you know, all the basics, especially when warming up. Mm-hmm. And that's something we can talk about here in a minute. But, you know, being able to just take your time, 5 rounds at a time, that way you can conserve ammo and all that and not use a bunch. Because the other thing is, I feel like when you use too much ammo or you go through too many rounds, your body's going to get fatigued. Not only your mind, but your body's going to get fatigued, because shooting, you know, does jar your body a little bit, and doing that over and over and over again. And even with ear protection on, the sound is going to get to you after a while, and you're just going to get fatigued. You're not going to be able to perform as proficiently as you would originally. And
you'll get bored, you'll get complacent with what Steve was talking about earlier, which can be dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're starting to get that complacency in there, you need to do something different.
Well, like the intermediate course here, I think is 150 or 200 rounds, and that's over the course of 2 hours. Mm-hmm. The enhanced concealed carry was 120, I think, and that's even above what the state, you know, minimums are, which for good reason, but 120 rounds over 2 hours. And I learned, you know, a ton in both of those classes. And I only shot, you know, 400 rounds, 500 rounds total between the two.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Because it's not so much about pulling the trigger. It's following all the technique and trying to keep it in your brain.
Yep. Just like a sport. So,
yep. Steve, what are your thoughts?
On dry fire practice?
Just
or all
say
that stuff?
I agree. Say amen.
Well, sure.
Well, which do you prefer? Do you prefer to sit at home and do the dry fire? And
you know, honestly, I don't do that as much as I should be, because I absolutely think it's important. But then I just let my mind get too occupied with other things. But honestly, dry fire, because what that's going to work on is your trigger press and your sight control, right? Your sight alignment and sight picture. Those 3 things combined are what really make effective shots. Your grip and stance, we've talked about that before. Those things are fluid. They're dynamic. They're going to change in a gunfight. So when you work on those fundamental skills, get to know your gun or any gun by doing the dry practice. But then there's some stuff I like to do at the range too, where I kind of mix both of them up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how do you mix dry fire and live fire at the range?
So one of my most favorite drills is, I don't even know what to call it. I saw it on a YouTube video and I don't even remember what they called it. But I'll load one, you know, put the mag in, rack the slide, pull the mag out. I'll fire and I'll work on my trigger reset and everything. So it goes bang. I get back in my sight picture, I reset the trigger, and then I dry fire it. And you just do that, you know, you do that in a whole magazine. So if I'm doing it with my 17, I got 17 rounds going through there. By 3 or 4 cycles, I'll see me, you know, jerking that trigger, really pulling the gun down. So it really brings out the demons that are screwing me up. Especially I did a lot when I was doing competitive shooting. It helped a bunch. I could see what my problems were, and then I could diagnose and fix my issues. It's
always been amazing to me how quick, like, you know, loading one into the chamber and you know, taking that mag out, that you're going to run dry. You know, you only have 1 round, but your brain flips. And when that first shot goes off,
And it's never the first go around, right? It's usually 3 or 4 times into it, and then I start forgetting, oh yeah, there wasn't one in there.
Yeah, because you're used to having at least one afterwards.
Yeah. And the more you do that, and like I say, it brings out those demons, and then you can refine the problem and fix it later. Just keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah, but that's a great way too. You were talking about trigger press and grip control, and anticipating recoil is a big one. That's something I still struggle with, and I think everybody struggles with every once in a while, especially if you're not shooting regularly.
Yeah, anticipation of recoil is something that, and jerking the trigger, which can be basically the same thing. It doesn't matter how long you've been shooting.
Yeah,
that's always going to be something you're training out.
You see super experienced shooters go through it too. It's an ongoing issue.
So what's funny is actually Bill, one of our instructors here at Independence, calls that the bang click drill. He actually teaches that drill in all of his classes. I guess that's what it would
be. Yeah. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, he calls it the bang click drill because it goes bang, then it goes click.
And I like that drill. Like I said, it's an awesome drill, and it doesn't take a lot of ammo to work on it. You can do it with a box, and you'll probably get sick of it with less than a box of ammo.
Oh, I imagine, yeah.
You'll start getting frustrated and seeing what's going on.
Yeah, but you're going to improve your shooting.
It's an awesome drill.
Yeah, it's a quick, easy, basic one that you can do, and like you said, it doesn't take a lot of ammo, and you really will be able to diagnose. But if you do get frustrated with that, you can always get one of those diagnostic shooting targets. I don't know if you guys, we have them here at the shop.
Yeah, the left and right-handed.
For both left and right-handed people. So I can get, I might have to be opposite of you guys, but at least I know it'll be right. But depending on where your shot placement is, it'll tell you what's, whether you're jerking the trigger or you're anticipating recoil or your grip is messed up, or there's a variety of different things. And there's ones online that you can download too. We'll post them with the podcast or whatever. But even just shooting at those targets, I think are, a good indicator of what you need to work on.
And I don't think those are necessarily scientific, like set in stone, but I think it's a good help for a diagnosis of what's going on.
You do also want to get to the point where you're calling your own shots. You're calling what you've done. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
A really good shooter will know. They don't even have to look at where their shot was. They know what they're doing. Yeah. They just felt it in their hand. It didn't feel right. This is why it didn't feel right. I was healing, or I was doing something. And that's always the goal, is to try to figure that out.
And I think
get so good that we can do that.
And I don't think it takes that long to get to that point to realize, oh yeah, I totally felt that one in my grip or whatever. Some people, they don't, because people learn at different paces. So, I've worked with some shooters where it just takes forever for them to really, oh yeah, I know what I did. But you just got to keep working. And I've had other people that I've taught that are just like, a magazine in, they're like, oh yeah, I totally got this, and they do. I mean, they're still poking ragged holes, and so I don't think shooters should get frustrated if they can't self-diagnose within 2 days or a week of shooting. Just keep practicing, and then soon it'll click.
And it's a progression too. You'll start to notice the big things, the big jerk of the trigger, the big, you didn't have your sights lined up. But then as you progress, you'll start to recognize the smaller inconsistencies.
Right, and you may have your own idiosyncrasies that you have to deal with, but nobody's going to be able to tell you that necessarily. You're going to feel it in your hands. And I think that's one of the things that's a big challenge with shooting as a sport as opposed to a lot of other sports, because you think like golf or basketball or baseball, you're using most, if not all, of your body to swing a bat, to swing a golf club, to shoot a basket. With shooting, I mean, you do have your stance and all that, but it's really just in your hands. Mm-hmm. Most of it is manual fine dexterity, fine motor skills, where you have to have that grip ready. You have to have everything in your hands, set the right way. Probably a lot like what a pitcher does, how they change their grip and they change their throw to make the ball go where they want. But it's got to be, it's that much more difficult. The movements make so much more of a difference. The small movements make so much more of a difference. If you swing a golf club and maybe you don't follow through all the way, maybe you're not going to get that distance or something you want, or maybe it's going to go a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. But, if your grip's messed up or you're jerking that trigger, it's not going to go where you want it to go. It's the same principle, but it's magnified because you're dealing with such smaller movements, you know? So another thing I was going to talk about was going from low ready to shooting to help with sight picture, acquiring a fast sight picture. You know, start at low ready and then bring the pistol up, and then as soon as you get it, you know, a good picture, then you shoot, and then bring it back down, and then kind of get relaxed and start at low ready again, and then do it again. And that's even good for, you know, practicing from a holster too, because, you know, not only do you have to clear it out of the holster and, you know, get your grip ready and everything like that, but you have to present it and get your sights on target. And a lot of places don't necessarily let you draw from the holster at a range.
Well, and here's the thing with the class that I'm going to go to, and it's going to be very interesting for me to do a debrief afterward to tell the audience what happened. But what their big methodology is on in this defensive shooting fundamentals course is instinctive shooting, instinctive defensive use of a pistol, which means unsighted fire. And they actually start students out with unsighted fire.
Really?
Not even using the sights. Actually, they said Rob Pincus in his book was talking about some of their guns when they would first started this course didn't even have sights on them.
Huh.
And and he actually noticed, and I don't know how this would do, because you have to, and he's saying he's teaching beginners. And I'm not going to be coming from that level, so I don't know. It would be very interesting to see how he tries to teach that. Because, yeah, it's just different. It's foreign because you think of, well, I need to find the sights. But the sights can also be a handicap, and I can understand what he's talking about is when you're so focused on finding those sights and you've done it every single time at the range. Now, when that in a defensive shooting situation, you're going to be trying to find those sights and it's going to slow you down. Whereas you need to be focusing on the threat.
Right. It could save you a tenth or half a second or something like that, which could make all the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then I'm sure they'll talk about this, and maybe we've talked about before, is distance equals time.
Yeah.
So if it's close, I'm not worried about my sights. You know, if it's 3-5 yards, whatever, I'm not worried about my sights because I'm going to hit something within that distance.
Well, and that brings up a good point too. You have to, if you're going to go to the range and practice with purpose, you have to have a goal in mind. You know, whether you want to be more accurate, whether you want to work on point shooting or instinctive shooting, you're training for CCW, or just to be more accurate in a competition, you have to have something that you're training for.
And see, and that's the thing is are you a competitive shooter? Are you a recreational shooter? Or are you training for defensive use of a handgun?
Right.
Because they're different.
They're completely different.
Every single one of those, all three of those disciplines are different. Competitive shooting is different from recreational shooting. Recreational shooting is like go put up some soda cans in the backyard or out in the desert or on the range.
Yeah.
And I shoot at those things, and it's no big deal because I'm just laughing and having fun, even if I miss them. Competitive shooter, you're probably you're a little bit more keyed in. You're also a lot harder on yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're using your sights. You might even be using an optic, a red dot, something like that. Defensive shooter, it's vastly different. So yeah, you have to come like you said, Mark. You have to come with a purpose, but you have to know which discipline also.
Sure. Yeah, you have to think about what you're training for, or what specific discipline you're training for. And, you know, going over like the basics and stuff like dry firing at home, or, you know, the bang click drill, for lack of a better term, those are good ways to just go in on the basics, which I think are applicable to every discipline of shooting. But once you get kind of past that a little bit, you really want to start to think about, okay, do I want to work on defensive drills? Do I want to work on competitive drills? You know, and there's some crossover, but, you know, it's going to change the kind of gun that you use to the strategy you have, because, you know, obviously with competitive, you're going to be trying to and depending even on the competition, you're either going to go for accuracy or for just a hit. You know, it might be speed or accuracy or anything like that. So,
and there's a great drill that I've taught even for getting the gun, presenting the gun out of the holster, right? It's one I stole from Travis Haley. It's not like something I'm not cool enough to create stuff, but it's a 5-second drill. So we teach a 5-step process, right, in the range for coming out of the holster.
Yeah.
So you break it down and you set your timer at a 5-second par, and at 5 seconds that trigger needs to break. And it's hard for people that are used to getting out of the holsters because they don't want to slow down. And if you force yourself to break that trigger within, half a second either side of 5.
So it has to be, it can't be faster than 5 seconds.
No, you start at 5 seconds. That trigger has to break at 5 seconds.
I see.
And then when you get comfortable at 5 seconds, you drop it down to 4 seconds. And then you're getting to where that trigger breaks, give or take right at 4, a few tenths of a second either way. And then 3, and then 2, and then 1. It definitely will increase your speed if you out of the holster, if you work on that drill religiously, if you do it the right way, because it's forcing you to take out of the 5 second, 1, 2, 3, or you're not at the 5 second drill, you're doing each one of those steps, and it's really robotic and clicky. But by the time you get to 2 seconds, everything has to be fluid.
Yeah, it builds muscle memory, and it's just like with lifting weights, you have to learn the right technique before you can do more, add more weight or anything like that.
Well, and it's very interesting that you talked about that, because that makes you kind of count. That's making you kind of follow this consistent.
Yeah,
get this consistency.
And at the 5 seconds, like I'm saying, it's a step. You're like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, and everything's really robotic and jerky.
Yeah.
But when you get suddenly, it's hard to divide those 5 steps into 3 seconds, right? You're like, oh well, that's not. You're not thinking about it in decimals of time. You're thinking about it as a motion, and then the more you do it and the faster you get, you'll be smooth, which is definitely fast, right? We understand that when you're smooth, you're going to be more economic. And you'll be able to get out of that holster way quicker. Not the first time you do it, but it's something that you can work on the range, 2 or 3 times a week, and you'll have it in not too long a time. I
did a training with Houston Shaw a few years ago, who is a competitive shooter, won a couple national championships. Mm-hmm. But he's from our local area, or more local area.
Yeah, down in Harriman. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking about the trigger press, how he'll count off the trigger press as well, and it's kind of similar to what Travis Haley was doing, to where as you're feathering through, you come to that resistance or you come to that wall, but once you get there, you're feathering through, and you're just counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and click. But it's not always the same for every gun, because every gun's going to break at a different time. But you learn the count for your gun. But you can always pull that trigger faster, but keeping the same fluid. So you just count faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and click. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and click. And then, but it's training that consistency, the smooth in there instead of a jerkiness. So it follows the same principle.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and going to accuracy, or making one ragged hole and trying to be precise with things, you don't have to set your target out at 10 yards or 7 yards or even 5 yards. You can bring it at 3 yards and just really take your time and focus on those fundamentals and really just get it. And then once you get good at that, you can bring out the distance to 5 or 7 or 10
and bring up the speed.
Yeah, and then it'll really show you where your challenges lie.
And that's important to understand too. If you're getting to where you're doing some specific drill and you're keeping all your shots perfectly super tight, you need to speed up. If you're not pushing yourself to the point, if you got a big old spread at 3 yards and you're having trouble, then you need to slow down and focus a little bit more on your sights. So you should always be challenging yourself and pushing yourself, just like we talked about lifting weight and exercising. You should be pushing yourself a little bit harder each time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, try to be a little bit faster. Try to be, and like you said too, is a good thing too. Is that if you're over your skis and your shots are all over the place, think about what that would be in a defensive situation, you know?
Well, and that's the thing. So, and that's exactly right. So this is where we draw the line, another line that's drawn between competitive shooting and defensive. Bullseye shooting is awesome. You want to get ragged holds. So you want that bullet in the same hole every time.
Absolutely, because it's all score.
Yeah,
there's no points when it comes to a defensive situation.
Yeah,
nope. It's only winners and losers.
Yeah, you put a hole in somebody. If you put a bullet through that same hole, you're not doing any more damage to them.
Nope.
You got to put it through a different place. So it's and that's again, it's the difference between the disciplines.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm more at. I in the prior life, and you talk about transition of how you train or how we train specifically. That's how my transition has been. Is when I came to the range, I loved seeing the ragged hole, and this is back before I carried concealed.
Right.
When I was first getting into more of the firearms, and I liked seeing that I was consistent and accurate, and I was taking my time. I do think accuracy is important, but now my training more revolves around always defensive, because I'm not a competitive shooter. I have done that in the past, but it's not something that I do.
Right.
On a regular basis. I might do it every once in a while and just have a good time, but I'm not super competitive into it. But I am more gearing up to defend myself if that happens, that I need it. Now, accuracy does come into play. I do think, and Jim Love talks about this, one of our instructors here, but it is important when you're after more of a defensive style training, to finish the training up with an accuracy drill of some sort. If that's splitting a card, if that's putting a couple rounds in the same hole, because that's getting that. I mean, by the end of your training, you're probably jerking the snot out of that trigger.
Yeah, you're fatigued and you're done.
Yeah, so it comes back to...
Yeah, but you're right. You bring up a good point between being accurate and putting, 2 shots in the same hole and all that, and being combat effective. That's what Bill talks about, is being combat effective. And if you can hit, the size of a dinner plate, and you put a dinner plate on somebody's chest, if you can at least get all the shots in there, you're pretty much combat effective. So it's just good to know the difference in what you're planning on training for, in between classes, or just a simple range trip or something.
Yep.
I agree.
Steve had words of wisdom.
I agree.
Like
yeah.
He's not as chatty as he usually is. So we've had to fill in all his empty space.
There's a lot of empty space there.
He doesn't have any dad jokes today. What in the world?
Well, it's a long, hard day. I'm sure you work today, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see? We all can't just travel the country taking shooting classes.
Willy-nilly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty much everything on training. In between classes, obviously, you get to learn a lot in classes, and you get a lot of knowledge from very experienced people. But there's nothing like being on the range and learning how to train yourself, at least in between classes, and working on those basics. But actually, one thing we didn't talk about was one-on-one instruction. Because that's something you can get at a range. It's not a classroom setting. You brought up the fact that you gave a private lesson a couple days or a week ago or whatever, and I think that's hugely beneficial.
It's beneficial at a point, and everyone that I work with, Steve will know where I'm coming from, and he doesn't necessarily agree, but in my opinion, it's beneficial only after you have taken a large group class. Because or some sort of formal instruction in a group setting. Because if you're expecting to hit on all the points, number one, private instruction is more expensive than a regular class is going to be.
Sure.
So usually it's cost prohibitive.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Spit it out.
For people, for different people. And not everyone can afford it. So what I like to do is if somebody's already taken those courses, they know something specific that they really want to dive deep into. And then in that private instruction, we can really hone in on that one thing really, really well because we're restricted by time.
Sure.
So, but if you're trying to gloss over all the surfaces that you get in a regular class, you might as well just take a regular class. Because you may only have an hour to cover what we cover in 4 hours.
So that's just a focus of getting your money's worth, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Steve, you disagree with that?
Well, sometimes yes and no. sometimes people just don't want to be in a classroom setting, and that's the only way they'll want to learn. Sometimes, oh, there's the doorbell. Look at that. Sometimes it's a better way for them to learn. It's just one-on-one instruction. So it's just hard to say. Sometimes it's just an individual thing. I've had people that don't want to go to a class and they just want to, and they're willing to spend the money. But the thing is that Ricky did hit it on the head. It's cost prohibitive, but they need to be willing to get what they pay for too. So they need to search out. If they just want to do a one-on-one session, they need to make sure that the person they're getting the instruction from has the qualifications and the ability and the understanding to teach at a level that they're getting their money's worth. That's super important, because there's a lot of guys out there that'll just be like, yeah, I can change a magazine. Watch this.
I'm NRA certified.
Yeah, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you pick the right instructor for that, and I think we've talked about that before.
Well, and I do want to hit on that a little bit more as far as the drills that we're talking about in the training. It is extremely important that before you go down any training road, you really figure out where is their methodology, where is their purpose behind that style of training. That's what makes me kind of apprehensive about this training that I'm going to, is because I don't quite know the full purpose or what's coming to it. So that's why you feel that little, that I'm a bit apprehensive of it.
The other thing too,
but I do feel it'll be good.
Ricky and I spent some time doing some jiu-jitsu, and that instructor spent some time talking about pedigree, like where he learned, where he got his skills from, and where that person got their skills from. And maybe it's not really super fair because it's not really a martial arts discipline, but it's important that you understand where they got their education from, because if it's off a Cracker Jack box, I don't think I want to spend time there.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, and besides just the what and the how, but the why is also important. Like Ricky said, the why they're teaching you the way they are, the why that they subscribe to that school of thought of training and all that. That's important to do. But it's also important for you to do too, because you have to think, okay, why am I learning this? Why am I going to spend the time, the money, the ammo, to do this? Mm-hmm. And I would say that you want to make sure that it's at least practical in everyday life, which, kind of gives a little more credence to maybe defensive shooting, but
yeah.
And then once you find out the why and you're going towards that training, you go with an open mind. You don't go with the mind of you go with an open mind, and you don't go with this closed off, I know everything already attitude, because there is always something to learn. And there's always even if it's garbage training, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
You can say, holy cow, I'm not going to do that.
You can learn what not to do. Yeah. But
I think it's also important to be willing to walk away. If it's something like blatantly ridiculous and unsafe, be willing to lose that $100, $150. Mm-hmm. Don't be scared, because your life is way more valuable than to finishing a class just because you spent the money on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
And I personally, I don't know anybody in the area that's walked from a class, but I've heard of it happening. I don't know of anybody, this or that side of the state where that's happened.
Have you walked out of a class?
I have never walked out of a class. No, I've been really lucky to find some good mentors that are super dialed in and have been all over the world doing stuff. Not that I'm not an amazing shooter. I'm not super awesome, but the people that I've surrounded myself, have been lucky enough to meet. I've always felt comfortable around them, and I trust them with my life. Be willing to walk out of a class and finding good instructors.
Well, and that's one thing I've never been in a training course where the trainers have been so off their rocker that you would walk out. But there are definitely those out there. I'm thinking of one in particular. I'm sure Steve is probably thinking of the same guy.
Probably the same guy that shot the target carrier. And I don't care name dropping him. Maybe I shouldn't, but yeah, I would never, ever. And most people already know, and they tease and mock him relentlessly online, and he deserves it. I'm not gonna feel bad about it. He totally deserves every cheap shot he gets because he's awful.
Yeah.
So that's good to know, though. But like I said, I mean, there are plenty of things you can do at the range by yourself to hone in those skills, to figure out where you need improvements. And then if you really find something where you need to dial in your trigger press more, or you have one thing that you really want to focus on, like Ricky said, you can go get a private instruction and say, this is what I really need to focus on.
Yeah. And as an instructor, like, there's times I like just doing the one-on-one, because then when I'm out on the range, I don't have to worry about looking at 6 people with a gun. I only have to focus on the one person that I'm helping out, if that makes sense. Sometimes when we're out teaching a CCW class and we got 2 groups of 8 people, I mean, my eyes are watching everybody at the same time, and it can get stressful. And I've only had a couple times where I've helped on a class where I've felt super uneasy, and we actually booted a guy out of a class before, not at Independence, at a different place. But yeah, it's sometimes more taxing on the instructor to have to watch a whole group where he can just focus on the one person.
Sure.
Sometimes.
Sure, and you can get a little bit more instruction as long as you know what you need to improve on, or have a goal that you're trying to achieve. So, and
you should be able to talk to any of us, either the Independence or whatever range you're going to. Just talk to the range officer, talk to the guys at the counter or whatever, and say, hey, do you know anybody? Is there what classes do you guys have coming up next that could help me with this problem? And I know, like, our basic classes, they pretty much cover everything you need to know if you're a beginning shooter. Even an intermediate shooter, you could take the basic class and learn something. Our instructors are awesome.
Yeah, and obviously, if they're a good range, they have a lot of different targets. So you can ask them, hey, do you have any targets that I can specifically do, like this drill? And because there are all different kinds of targets. There's like a consistency drill, one that a lot of people might know about is the dot torture drill. Mm-hmm. And you can print it out on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of printer paper.
That one is, let's see, who does that? I can't remember who it is. Anyway, you just Google dot torture drill.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the podcast.
It'll come to me. I can't remember who it was that started that.
But they should be able to, people at the range should be able to give you a target and say, okay, this is what you want to do with this, and you can kind of learn from there.
Yeah, another thing that we started to, we're trying to get rolling over there, and you can ask Ricky when you see him in person, is the not a koala. It's a couple of shooting drills that we've set up.
We're still waiting on the patches, my friend.
We are still waiting on the patches. But that's a great shooting drill too. That one's a little bit more, at least the first tier. That one's might be more than what people are ready for. It's definitely challenging. There's part times. There's a lot of work there to be done. But it also involves being in a closed range. You could probably do some of it from the booth, but usually it involves going down range. But it's something you could talk about, and one of the guys over there can get you a copy of the drill, and you can start working on it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, all you got to do is ask.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll close on that, because I think we don't want to overload your brain with so much training either. But just suffice it to say that in between classes, it would behoove you to go to the range and train with some purpose. Figure out what you need to work on.
I kind of look at it like you buy some fancy knife, bench-made knife, right? Super nice knife. It's sharp when you get it. It's brand new.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of money on it. You start using it, it gets dull. You got to hone that down. You got to keep it sharp. Otherwise, it's useless, right? It's the exact same thing with firearms training. You got to really work at it consistently to keep it going. And if you wait too long, then it's like starting all over.
Yep, and just like exercise, yep.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about exercise. I'm already fat, but but firearms drills, yeah, it's important to keep that stuff going.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if there's any drills you like, or any kind of questions that you have, make sure you send us an email to podcast@iishooting.com, or find us on Facebook on the new Range Minded Facebook page. It's facebook.com/range-minded podcast. Make sure to give us a like there, and post pictures of your favorite drills too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Episode 30.
Yeah, see, he's got it now.
Took me a while.
At the end of the podcast, huh?
Well, we know Ricky's real quick, so.
Hey, he's smarter than me. It's okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. If you've got a comment, question, idea for the show, or any feedback, send us an email to podcast@iishooting.com or send us a message on our Facebook page. Just search Independence Indoor Shooting. Again, thanks for listening to Range Minded. We'll see you next time.